Hi there. How are you doing today? We're going to read another Bible story. I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day last weekend with your family. And this week, we're going to continue reading about King Solomon. You remember, first we learned about King David, who was a shepherd boy, but then he was chosen by God to be strong and fight against Goliath, the giant. And with God's help, David won. And David went on to become a king of all the people of Israel. And then David had a son, and his son was Solomon. And last week we learned how very wise King Solomon was, and how the Queen of Sheba came to visit him to learn things from him. And today we're going to be reading more about King Solomon and maybe some more kings. We're already in chapter 14. Can you believe that? Today the title of our chapter is A Kingdom Torn in Two. That doesn't sound very good. Let's see, we're still reading from the Bible, and we're in the book of 1 Kings, and we're going to read chapter 11, verse 11. It says, "So the Lord said to Solomon, 'You have chosen not to keep my covenant. You have decided not to obey my rules. I commanded you to do what I told you, but you did not do it. So you can be absolutely sure I will tear the kingdom away from you. I will give it to one of your officials.'" Wow, that doesn't sound good, does it? It sounds like Solomon, who was so wise and smart, sounds like something happened. Let's see if our story is about that today. It says, "The wisest man on earth wasn't always wise. As King Solomon grew older, he began to make bad choices. He married many women who worshipped idols. Instead of leading them to love God, Solomon let his wives talk him into worshiping idols. After Solomon's rule ended, the peace and prosperity of the nation ended too. A dark time began in Israel's history. Men fought over who would be king, and the kingdom divided, and a long string of evil kings began to rule the nations. Occasionally, a good king would come to the throne and call the people back to God. Wow. The time right now for Israel doesn't sound very good. A lot of fighting going on, a lot of different people wanting to be king, and not a lot of people following God. That is a problem. Let's see. Here we are. This is our story today, and it says, "Good kings, bad kings." Let's see. Can you see that right there with me? Yes, and look at this. This looks like a giant crack going on, a split. Let's see what it's about. It says here, God was very disappointed with Solomon. "Since you have disobeyed me and worshipped other gods, I will tear your kingdom away from you," God told the king. God was angry with Solomon. The people of Israel were angry too. For years, Solomon demanded huge taxes from them. Do you know what taxes are? Taxes are money. When maybe you make some money, but then the king says, you made 10 cents doing that chore. I want 5 cents of it. And so he starts taxing the people and asking for their money to go to him. So this made the people poor, and many of them had turned away from God in discouragement. They were sad, they were discouraged, and they began worshiping false gods instead. Oh, not good at all. Let's see. The poor people there, they don't have any money. They have no hope anymore. And so they forget about God and started worshiping those idols again. Just as God promised, he split the great kingdom of Israel into 2 nations, Israel and Judah. For the next 350 years, God's chosen people did not follow God's rules for holy living. Most of the time, they were led by evil kings who worshiped idols instead of the one true God. Oh, so that's what that big crack is about. So there was one nation, Israel, but now God has split them up. And it looks like they're even fighting one another. Oh, not good at all. And that's a long time, 350 years of fighting and being confused and not worshiping the one true God. Let's see what happens. Ooh, this looks maybe like one of the kings. Let's see if he's a good king or a bad king. It says, one good king of Judah, King Asa, tried hard to bring the people back to worshiping God. Asa got rid of the false idols, and he brought gold and silver to the temple, to show honor to God. So these are baskets of gold and silver that he is having the people bring into the temple to honor God. Just as Asa tried to do good, King Ahab of Israel, that's the other nation. So we have King Asa over here in Judah, and he's trying to do good things. And then over here in Israel, we have King Ahab, and he seemed determined to do the most evil. He and his wife, Jezebel, encouraged people to worship the idol Baal. That's a picture of the idol Baal. Their actions were more evil than all the other bad kings combined. It was a sad time for the nation that had been led by so many faithful men. Israel is going through a very terrible time. They do not have good leaders, and they have lost sight of God. And because of that, they are having lots of problems. Now over here in Judah, King Asa is trying to do the right thing and lead his people in the right way. When I read this story, even though it happened hundreds of years ago, things like this still happen today. Even in our government, And even in our world, some countries fight with other countries. So it's almost the same. But what do we know is most important? Most important is to keep our eyes focused on what? On God, the one true God. To have faith and trust in Him, and He will make things right. Let's see what His message is. God's message. He's talking to the people of Israel here. He says, "You have turned your backs on me. Your kings have led you astray." Astray means the kings have led the people away from believing in God. The closeness we once shared is gone. But I will call you back again and again. I will never stop trying. I am your loving God, and you are my people. So once again, even though the people of Israel are doing bad things and God punishes them, He still loves them with all of His heart, and He wants nothing more than for His people to come back to Him, to worship Him and love Him. God tries so hard to show us His love over and over again. Why is it so hard sometimes for the people to stay true to God? Do you know why? Maybe because on this earth there are so many distractions. Distractions from what is true and good and right. And that is our God. Even today, we have distractions, like our phones are a big distraction. You see everybody's walking around on their phone. Our jobs can be distractions from what is good and true. So we try to remember to keep our focus on God. Remember God, and just like we wrote Him a Valentine last week, every day really, say a prayer to God, a prayer of thanks for your life and for being here in this time on the earth. And do your best to stay true and focused on God. That is most important. Thanks for joining me for our lesson today. It was kind of a hard one. Again and again, the people do bad things, naughty things, and they get punished, but God always wants them to come back to Him because He loves them so much. So remember, no matter what you do, it's just like your parents. They love you and they will forgive you. And what they really want is for you to follow them and for you to love them. All righty. Well, let's close today with the Lord's Prayer. Mitchell, Amelia, I see you out there. Do you think you could say the Lord's Prayer for us today? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I did it.
Go ahead.